Hey guys, Zane from the Infinite Jukebox here with another quick album review, and today I wanted to talk about the new Sleater-Kinney record, Little Rope. Seeing their very weak post-No Cities to Love output, it feels really odd and even downright bizarre at this point to say that Sleater-Kinney were genuinely one of the greatest and most consistent rock/punk bands of the 90s and 2000s. I mean, really, there was nobody else like them in terms of pure intensity and energy when they were around in their original run. Beginning with their fairly underrated 1995 self-titled debut and originally ending a full decade later with their 2005 magnum opus, The Woods, Sleater-Kinney reached this perfect balance between compositional integrity and raw passion that thankfully has left a massively positive impact on the current state of indie music. There are seemingly countless bands at this point that either would not exist or would not sound nearly the same without the influence that Sleater-Kinney ultimately had on them. 2019's The Center Won't Hold, however, musically showed a seemingly complete deterioration of their best qualities, something that was fittingly highlighted by the ensuing departure of longtime drummer and icon of the drums, Janet Wise, one of the most talented drummers within the history of indie music. 2021's Path of Wellness, as the band continued as a duo, just represented a continual decline, and now it was officially up to this album, Little Rope, to stop Sleater-Kinney from falling into this trap of becoming mediocre alternative rock radio fodder, and it feels really depressing to say that sentence considering there are multiple albums that I would say in their discography verge on masterpiece territory. But here we are, and this record doesn't save them from anything. It's a slight improvement over their last two records, but that's not really a high bar to get over. There are many times where it feels like Little Rope is trying its absolute damnedest to recapture the sort of classic garage rock revivalist style of records like The Hot Rock and 1B, records that are, what's the word I'm looking for? Good, yeah, And I mean, tracks like Crusaders and Don't Feel Right, they feature fuzzy guitar work and messy solos that conceptually would fit right in on those records. Those things are intentionally put in here, though. And that's where the key word comes in, intentionally. It's a general rule of thumb that when a band tries to force rawness, it just does not come out as natural rawness, and that's very much true here. Whereas those aforementioned records were very much natural in terms of their pure, unfiltered passion and hunger within the realm of indie rock at the time, Little Rope feels more than anything like Corin Tucker and Carrie Brownstein just doing their best to recapture that sound, and that's where the issue comes in. It is that same sound for the most part at least, but it feels significantly more artificial here than it ever did before. Some really weak production from John Congleton, too, certainly doesn't help either. I mean, there are a couple of moments here where Sleater-Kinney do actually achieve a legitimate amount of grit. I'm talking about songs like, say, Untidy Creature, for example, but there's just too many odd auditory choices being made here for there to really be any result that I could personally consider a net positive. I mean, the mixing on the track Six Mistakes, for example, causes the vocals to just get buried in an otherwise textureless wall of guitar distortion, which, in theory, sounds cool, but it's not. It's pretty lame in execution, I'm not gonna lie. Elsewhere, you have the album opener Hell, which has these dense, hissing choruses that transition super rigidly into its significantly more sparse verses, and it makes for a song with awkward structure that didn't need to feel awkward. The verses and choruses could seamlessly blend together here. It's just the strange production choices that prevent that from happening and make somewhat weak songs that much weaker. Some of the actual songwriting and compositional arranging here is actually pretty decent. I mean, there is some solid lyricism on tracks like Dress Yourself, some fairly memorable hooks and choruses on cuts like Say It Like You Mean It, arguably the best song on the entirety of Little Rope. But with all of that being said, it's all just weighed down considerably at that by a total seemingly lack of ambition. I mean, this record just feels so limp and lifeless and dull, and that's the exact opposite of what Sleater-Kinney in their best moments have been. This is just really kind of a dry, boring record. I hate to say it because I don't like to describe things as boring, but that's kind of what this is. Sleater-Kinney's last couple of albums were some of the biggest disappointing comebacks of any fairly major band within recent memory, and trust me, there have been a lot of disappointing comebacks of major bands in somewhat recent years. But with that being said, Little Rope is an improvement over those records, Path of Wellness especially. That being said, that's not actually saying much in the end. I mean, the vast majority of Little Rope just feels like absolutely nothing. It feels like it was made out of obligation rather than passion or the desire to make another Sleater-Kinney record. And, I mean, if you're a Sleater-Kinney fan, you might enjoy this. Maybe if you're really a diehard fan who has to hear everything, including, every single deep cut or non-album song, but I don't know, as someone who is very passionate about the band's older works myself, I just find nothing here for me. This record just lacks any and all of the bite and pure personality that made Sleater-Kinney such a unforgivingly memorable band in the first place. It's really actually kind of sad to see them release this in their later years. This doesn't even feel like the same band at this point, and I don't expect it to feel exactly like something like, say, The Woods, but I expect it to at least, be memorable, and that is not this. I'm going to give this record 2 stars out of 5. And with that being said, that is the end of this quick album review. I've been Zane from the Infinite Jukebox. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.